block certain sites.
Do you want to
But
do
they
the
can
fishbowl?
leave the
Not really, but I
phone
can't do
access
that.
for either Facebook or
We
whatever
have,
social
they
media
can't get
they
on
have.
Netflix,
They have
And-
all the apps.
but-
Possible,
there's certain ones they can't get on. I know they can get on Facebook, Snapchat, which is a big thing for all of them, of course. Instagram.
Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, that's in their messaging just back and forth, of course, because you can have a conversation on Snapchat, so you can't text a message, so.
So we as a hot day at the carnival, so we got 3 fish. I will say this: you remember that in a little
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
beer? That's like where beer pong got started.
Yeah.
It's a really unique predicament. I won't say it's not when you're playing both sides of the blade on that one. Is you're using it because the iPads, and like you said, everything the iPad can do, the phone can do. And if it's not that, they could have a watch on, and they could do everything with a watch that you could do with a cell phone as well too. So it's a fine line. It's one that I'll give you an example of what we did in our academy. That would probably be the best story I could give, and it's one of those things that it kind of has to start within. So we had this challenge of one, technology of course was big. Like, how do we bring in technology? And we literally as a team, we just decided it's time to sit down and look at our handbook, and we really kind of said this, like, what works and what doesn't. And technology, like the whole phones in the classroom, is a big thing. So rather than solving it ourselves, we actually brought it to the students to solve. You know, it's like, you guys want to use them, okay, but we've got to do something that's acceptable. So we have a student council. I don't know if anyone else has a student council in their school at all, but we've got because we've got a group of students that they kind of serve as like the representative of the student body. So they organize charity events, they organize special events, spirit weeks, things like that. So we were able to bring it to them rather than bringing it to our entire student council and be like, hey, 200 people, give us your ideas. We said, you 5 people, 6 people, whatever the body was. We said, work within yourselves as your representatives for school, talk to your classes, and blah, blah, blah. You present to us what would be the ideal solution. What's really fascinating about having them solve the problem is they actually were a lot more strict than we ever. We actually had to scale it back and be like, no, you're like, we don't have to terminate you just because you broke the rule. Like, we can go ahead and scale this back a little bit. They got harsh, it was kind of nice. But this is what they decided. They came up with an acceptable usage policy for our student body in the classroom, an AUP. You can actually get a lot of these off Google. You can go to Google and look up like classroom AUP for phones. They give you examples of it. And it basically is like a rule, a guideline for the phones. And what they came up with, designing this and kind of using some as a reference, is they could have their cell phones in class, but they had to be screened down on top of the table when it wasn't part of the classroom. That way an educator could look around and actually see, I see your cell phone, I see your cell phone, I see your cell phone, but it's screened down, so at least I know you're not using it right now. Then during classroom time with activities, they would be allowed to pick them up, get on them and all that, and then they had to put it screen down again. That way they were there, so it kind of wasn't one of those like, I feel it buzzing in my pocket, I need to check it. You know, if it's on their table, they might kind of do one of these, and really isn't, at least it's there. It kind of calms the nerves a little. And we at least know that as the educators, if it wasn't on that tabletop, then there were 2 things. Either they don't have a cell phone, right? Or that cell phone is currently somewhere else. And it's typically down here. Like, no one has that interesting of a crotch that they stare at it for like minutes at a time. Like, if you haven't seen it by the time that you're 18, like, well, we gotta talk. There's someone else that you gotta have a talk with. But they would have, like, this is where the phone goes. It's right there. So at least when it's on the tabletop and it's screened down, then the educator was able to observe what was happening, and the students also had that. So that they actually came up with that policy for us. And the student council is a really great thing. It actually takes a lot of stress off of the educators when they do. But the other challenge you have is there is a little bit more of it. To me, I think there's a little bit more of also internally of discussion that would have to be made. It's not just with the students. It is difficult to kind of want to give with one hand, but you're also taking from the other. So I think if you guys and with your students can come up with what seems like a reasonable plan and present that back to the team, that you might be able to, maybe just kind of do that. Like, here's some, and the students came back to us. They're like, this is the reasons why we want to have it. And we've got students that are like, I'm a manager at my job. Like even though I'm in school, I'm still a manager at my job. I need to be available for my staff. Or I've got 6 kids. Like I'm not going to be disconnected from my kids. You know, so it's there's that balance. I think and for us we did this. We even went to our some of our team and we're just kind of be like, hey, you're in class right now. Where's your cell phone?